So I got like comments back, right, on case studies, and the one, I guess it depends on like where you got taught. So both times I've been to both my workshops in Toronto,
May I have my
but
noodles?
during my
Also,
oh, during my second workshop, we were talking about like ankle and the foot moves, and two of the instructors there said they just always do the foot move if they end up doing ankle.
Mm.
And I know in one of the comments on my case study, it was like, "Oh, like why'd you do bunion of necessary bunions?" I'm like, "Cause it feels great after ankle." I don't know. Like is that something we can? I love doing the foot. I used to hate touching people's feet until I started doing boa therapy, and now I love doing the foot moves on people because people love them. Like, is that okay? Is that something like even if they don't have any indications that they technically, need the bunion move, but just kind of like I know it was with Amber and Dr. Connie in Toronto, and just like you're already down there with the ankle, might as well finish like hammer toe and bunion as well. What is your take, Romain?
Well, I resonate with you, Lauren, because I'm also trained as a reflexologist. And yes, I do work with the feet, and I know that the whole body is connected with the foot and everything. I think what um, the comment was getting at there was that there's always has to be a reason for everything when it comes to what you're doing, right? Say, for instance, your patient comes in with low back pain, for example, right? And suddenly you do, yeah, let's go with an ankle move. How would you how would you explain why you would do an ankle move in this case? Any thoughts?
Well, really, like everything's connected, like that, right? And more from observations as well. So I guess explaining like what you know of the client. So I knew this client, like she's a really big runner, and a lot of them do tend to have issues like knees and below, right? That all stems from above. So just finishing off like I remember with this one client, like I had seen her, you know, twice already and got really good results, and I guess I was like, let's just kind of finish off the whole lower body. Is that I'm not saying it maybe as medically or as specifically as I should be, but do you get what I'm trying to say? Is that
No, I get you for sure. And there are many reasons behind it too. You've taken a beautiful step on that, we always use our lower body and that affects our lower back because the mechanics are there, right? The point I'm trying to get at is what you said to me just now in the past 2 minutes could be charted. That's where I was trying to get at there too. So it's kind of like there's nothing wrong with it. It's a matter of making sure that what you do has a reason for it that should be
okay?
written in your chart.
Okay, so documenting it, and yeah, and that's why I love like I've done a lot of my case studies pre the new format, and I love the new format that has more room to actually write out everything, right? Because a lot of the times, like with the old case study forms, like I've written so much, but I have additional notes from my own stuff, right? So it's just a matter of like, okay, tearing that on. So thank you for putting together that new sheet. That's helpful, and more room to write observations. Sometimes like there's not enough room for some people. So
Yeah, my one of the arguments I had coming from myself is unless if you write like me, I don't think anyone can actually write on this chart. Because I write small and computer print. And disclosure here, I had one of my supervisors actually fail me on my charting skills because it was just too neat and too small. It sounded like as if I typed it up, printed it, and smacked it on my chart. Because with naturopathic studies, you write on plain paper, and you write a whole lot as a naturopath. But the point that I was trying to get, that I'm hoping that you're starting to understand, is that whatever we do, well, two things. One of them is, whatever we do, there has to be a rationale behind it. And there are likely going to be many reasons, because everyone sees the case differently. There's not always going to be like, if it's this case, it has to be this protocol, or if it's this case, it has to be these 3 moves, that sort of thing. It's a matter of, it's almost like as if you're defending yourself why you're doing this. Because worst case scenario, something happens and you have to bring whatever documentation that you have, and all you have on your piece, on your soap chart, is person came in with back pain, and suddenly you have, that was your S, for example. You have your O, A, and then suddenly P, it says worked on bunion. How would you feel if you were a person just outside of what you're doing in this context, and suddenly had to read your chart like that? Don't get too much from that, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I understand that. I get it. Thank you.
No, that's a good question. And definitely when it comes to the art of charting, I know Denise and I have had our fair share of training when it comes to charting anything and everything. And for a typical naturopath, we have to write like at least 1, maybe 2 full pages of notes, typically on our first visit. Excuse me there. So that's where I was trying to get at there. Any other questions in regards to your cases, Lauren, or anyone else? I'll open it up to the floor.
Oh, yeah, can I add something to this? Hi, Lauren. Hi. So I like that you trusted your intuition, right? And it makes perfect sense because she's jogging and it's her feet. So she needs the support. And also we can all use the feet because feet are related to the lower back, but to the kidneys and the adrenals, so stress. So we are going through so much stress, so we can all use feet work. So anyway, that's all I wanted to add.
No, definitely. I wanted to add the TCM component, that the kidney meridian actually passes along our ankle. So by doing the ankle move, it could actually be, in regarding to Chinese medicine, helpful for the lower back.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it has to do with, there's nothing wrong with what you did, Lauren, and there's nothing wrong with many other protocols. It's a matter of making sure that you write it down and that you have a reason for it. Because you could say that someone comes in with low back pain, and you're doing some other move, whether that be, TMJ or shoulder or something, and all you have to do is making sure that you write down why you're doing shoulder, why you're doing the deltoid move, and you're probably thinking about either opening up the chest area because you find that the source or the root of the pain is coming from the upper back, for example. Nothing wrong with that, just making sure that you write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for pointing that out for us, Denise.
Yeah, my pleasure. We're all learning together, that's why we're here. Yeah.
Oops, I think, Carol, you're muted, right?
Hey, there we go. Am I unmuted now? Yeah,
You're good.
Okay. My internet's kind of going in and out right now. I've got quite the rainstorm going on. Yeah. But yeah, first off, I wanted to say hi to everybody because I came in late, but hello. and I haven't met Lauren or Dr. Denzin. I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name, but nice to meet you both. And hi, Linda.
Hello.
How do you feel about going around and introducing ourselves and talking, say where you're from, how you got to know Bowen? How are you feeling right now at this time? I should have started off with that, should I?
All good. Yeah, sure. Well, seeing as I'm unmuted, I'll start talking then, I guess. So I'm from Caroline, Alberta. It's, I guess for point of reference for you guys, I am 2 hours southwest of Edmonton. 2.5, 3 hours, yeah. But yeah, and I'm in a rainstorm right now.
And how did you get to know about Bowen, and how do you feel about your learning with Bowen and everything?
So I discovered it. So my brother was in a really bad vehicle accident a few years back, and just seeing the recovery when he discovered Bowen, of how incredible it was, and went from having serious chronic injuries to having almost immediate relief was mind blowing. And then myself, I've had incredible relief from it over years, so that's been great. So I have a huge passion for Bowen therapy itself. It's just incredible, and like I'm super excited. I'm so close to being done this program, and I'm just pushing hard, trying to get it done. Very anxious to get done for sure. I have a lot of family and friends and a lot of people in my area that are like, as soon as you're certified, we have this many people we're referring you to. So I'm super excited to be official. But yeah, at the moment, I will say I am really struggling with the physiology and anatomy exam. Yeah, so that's actually, do we want to leave questions till later, or should I ask now?
Go for it while you're talking.
Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. So with the exam, so actually I'll retrace a little bit back. So last year when I did the functional anatomy exam, there were a whole bunch of errors in the actual exam itself because they were still like upgrading and rebooting it and transferring it to the online. And I think I may have been the first person, I don't know, but like, so the computer had failed me with a 50%, and I submitted back being like, okay, these are my answers and this is why I know it's correct. See page, blah, 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 the textbook line, blah, 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 kind of thing. And came back with an 81% pass. So that's quite the difference. And now when I did the physiology and anatomy exam, I feel that there may be some of those issues with this as well. I'm not sure because I've been going through the exam the last 2 weeks, just on my side what I can, and like going through the answers that I got wrong. And obviously there's some legit ones I need to reconsider and did wrong, but there's also some that I would not agree with. Like going through my textbook, looking at the answers, and stating that my answer that I chose was correct and those kind of things. So right now I'm kind of pulling that apart and picking it apart and finding what the answer should be and that kind of thing. And I was going to be writing up an email to actually hopefully send to you. So now you have some caption of what you're going to be getting in the next week or so. Hopefully I've been, like I said, I've been at this 2 weeks now, just picking apart what I'm studying and making sure that I've got correct answers and that kind of thing. But yeah, I guess I'll be honest, it's frustrating as a student, having to go through and pick apart a exam from a supposed to be professional institute, if I may say, and having to pick apart an exam and not being able to trust that the answers that it marked are correct. It's a little bit frustrating. But I'm doing the best that I can right now, so.
And I understand, and I really want to thank you for your patience as we transfer all of this kind of content and questions onto an online platform, because we used to have all the tests on paper, but that would mean that you would either have to meet up with someone from
The
Bowen College,
proctor.
yeah, a proctor or someone from Bowen College, and then you would have to take those measures to do the exam on paper. And so having that transferred, and I can tell it's been quite an extensive effort to transfer all of that on an online platform. I'm noticing some kind of things that are happening, like, you know, when you say, when it asks for how many things are involved, for example, and you write 3, well, is it going to take the numerical 3, or is it going to take 3?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that it dinged me on the last exam, is it was case sensitive. So if I put capital, like it asked, you know, about ribs, like what they were called, like what these numbers were called, and like I wrote it all in capitals, but it wanted it all in lowercase or numerical versus written, and it was just frustrating. So
And that's why I offered for sure to mark them myself if I have to for the time being. So if this is the case that's happening for you, Carolee, email me, bring it up, and I'll be more than happy to look over it with you. Whether
wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
that be on like even a Zoom call or anything, because I've answered a couple of your questions too in regards to your questions about content, and I have to say, Carolee, you really do pick things out really well, and that's a way to learn too. So my hope is that we get to the bottom of all this, and I'll explain why it's, you know, this answer and maybe not so much the other answer. Because what I like about these kind of questions is it's not that you're wrong, I'm right kind of thing. Because you're looking into it, I want to see where you're looking at it. So your question doesn't just tell me why you're wrong, or doesn't tell me that, you know, I just want to know the right answer, that sort of thing. But by asking that question, Carolee, it gives me an opportunity to figure out where you're thinking or what your approach is. Because that way I get to know, I see where we're coming at here. Okay, then we can really go on from building on where you're at. And I understand that with anatomy and physiology, it's going to be very different for students like yourself when you don't have the medical training that majority of the Bowen students in the past have. So it's a good way for myself and for the instructors to really understand where you're coming from. And that way I know how I can help you, rather than just tell you what's right and what's wrong. I want to be able to facilitate that.
Can I add on to that? Or
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah. So I actually wrote a very long email to Bowen College, and then I deleted the email because I was really upset. I was and I normally, like, I don't get upset. I was actually on the verge of quitting because on the exam that I took, it was a 20 question exam, right? Meridian medicine. I'm dyslexic, so it takes me almost 3 minutes to read a question, especially if it's written that way. Now, 3 minutes to read a question, and then after that, go through it in my head, understand it, and then read it again to make sure I read it correct. Blow up the page. So I only finished 11 questions, and then time was out. So then I couldn't even see the rest of the question, nothing. So then the next time I went in, and it was like, by the time the first time I failed the exam, it's a 20 question exam, I failed it. The second time I took the exam, I panicked because I was sweating. Like, I finished the exam, I had to go take a shower because I was like, I have to read it quickly. And then I ended up going through it. I finished it, and then there was some problems behind the scenes or whatever. So whatever. But so that was, so that really caused me a lot of anxiety, especially when I failed it, and then I had to wait like a week before I took it. I'm like, it wasn't even my fault that I failed it. It's a legitimate situation. I can't read. So I'll try to read, and I'll have to like blow up the thing really huge. I'm like, you should see my computer screen, it's huge. And I'll look at it, read it properly. And so reading it, understanding it, reading again, understanding it, takes me like 4 or 5 turns. So properly getting one question, understanding it will take me a good 5 minutes, especially if I have 3 minutes to answer a question. so that was, and then the few issues on case studies as well that you had mentioned, which I'll reply after you reply to this.
No, thank you very much for bringing it up. I'm just thinking of the,
Can I add?
yeah, definitely, Teresa.
Hello, everybody. I'm Teresa. I'm in Dr. Manon's account because she can't be here today, but I'm support. I'm admin. I'm sure I've spoken to most of you through support. First of all, I want to go to Carolee. We are taking out all of those questions that have the fill in the blanks because we've had too many problems. They're all coming out. So by the time you take it again, they will all be gone. We're going to make everything into the multiple choice and or true false. So thank you for all of your questions and comments. We take them all very, very seriously and trying to make it better for everybody. When we transferred it all over, we did have an agency just do it for us. So yes, we've had problems with some of the answers. They haven't been correct and things like that. And we thank you all. You and Kate are definitely our best people for finding anything that was wrong because we just don't see it. We see what was supposed to be there. And like those strange things that are written in funny characters, I can read them like it's English. I don't see the problem. So we really thank you. Uthman, if you're having a problem, honestly, tell us. I will open it up. I will double your time for it. I honestly did not know that that was your issue, but just honestly, email support. We can always change things and make exceptions if you have real problems, which obviously you do, and I can open it up for you. You tell me what day you're going to do it. I'll make sure it's double time or even triple time if you really need that kind of thing. If there's an issue, we're always there to work, but we need to have the standards in place, and then we can make exceptions or pivot to help the people and succeed and things like that, which is why we've changed the case study forms. A lot of people didn't like them. We're trying to change them into these new case study forms, and Dr. Romeo has been awesome at making all these new videos and explaining them because a lot of people didn't understand what we needed, and we're just evolving, and we really, really thank you for all your participation and giving us feedback so we can pivot and change.
Well, thank you. That's. I guess I'll remember that for next time. I don't have any more exams to take, so.
Thank you very much for bringing that up, Uthman. The fact that we are open to accommodating and all that, and thank you, Teresa, for filling in that. I know there has been a lot of changes, and I can't imagine what you're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, I started with the program in 2018, and it's been crazy the amount of changes that have happened since then. And it's like, so sometimes it's been a little bit hard to transition from like the new program and, oh no, none of my progress is saved or things like that. And Trista's been sure to be like, no, it's saved on my side. So, but yeah, it's definitely been cool seeing the college growing in different areas, and I look forward to see, things like exams and things like that get sorted out too.
Yeah,
so
us too. We are so wanting them all to be done and finished. Thank you for all your patience and your help in making them better. And all your lovely new questions. Those were fantastic.
Oh, good.
I have Teresa, when it has to do with content or anything to do with anatomy, physiology, she would immediately forward it to me, and I'll be like, okay, I got this.
I know nothing, okay? I'm admin. Hey, I'm learning Reboot. That's about as far as I'm going to get.
Hey, that's the fun part.
Hey, I'm proud of myself just for that bit, okay? That's all all these words mean nothing to me. It's like speaking German.
Yeah. Oh, God.
So
Yes, Ramin?
Can I ask my second question?
Sure.
If we're at it. Okay, so I'm not from a medical background in any way, shape, or form. I realized at Bowen College beginning, everyone was most of your NDs are from a medical background, so you guys knew how to chart. I'm from a philosophy background. I have a PhD in philosophy and theology. Like that's what I do. That's how I write papers. I research all of that stuff if I needed to. The problem is, so I submit about 14 case studies and I fail every single one of them. And I'm just, that's really like, it really puts a person down. Like, why did I fail? Okay, I'm trying to chart the best that I can. And the same question that I can't remember what that Lauren had. Why did you do this? Why do you do that? So I'm reading in the books. The way I do it, I read in the book. It's like, okay, so the person has back pain, so it says like bunions or whatever can help with back pain or something. I think there's probably some stuff over there. So I'm not no. So that's one issue. So I'll write those down. Now I'm charting the best that I can. Obviously, the reason that you have your Healing Accelerator workshops is so that we can take our time. I mean, you're busy, and we're all really extremely busy. So taking our time to go travel, it's really, really hard. So on top of that, like during the week, whenever we have to ask questions, sometimes they're not replied, or it's just really hard to understand. So it gets really demotivating when I submitted one case study, I got 100%, and then the second case study, and then I wait 2 weeks, fail, and then the third case study, I wait 2 weeks, nothing. For 5 weeks, 7 weeks, then I keep submitting case studies. I'm like, fine, 3, 4, 5. I reach 14 to 15 case studies, I believe, and then I get one email that says every one of those failed. I'm like, okay, what is it that I failed in? I'm looking at everything. I'm trying to go through it, and as I'm reading them, I'm just like, okay, I can't even reply to the case study, my justification as to why I did that, why I did this. I have to literally redo the whole case study, which is it's hours of work, considering that no one wants Bowen therapy in Edmonton. They're like, Bowen therapy, what's that? Some sort of weird voodoo stuff that you do, like, you know, one move and stuff like that. No one wants it. On massage therapy, physiotherapy. So getting people to come and do case studies with you, it's like hell. Keeping that in mind, we can't even charge for Bowen therapy because we're not giving them a receipt, and we're doing case studies. So that's hours of work that we've put in. Charting is also hours, as best as we can, and then we get an email saying everything's been failed, with no feedback on how to grow. It can tell us like, okay, you did this, what's the justification for that, what about this, what about that? And then the second thing is, we should learn how to do our case studies in the Healing Accelerator, especially for us. Like, I'm not even from a medical background. I'm like, okay, what's soap? Okay, soap. Okay, I clean my body with it. Like, then I started to realize, okay. And then the other thing was, okay, how can you diagnose a patient? I'm like, why in the world is the question even there in the soap form about diagnostics? Okay, I can't. So I'm gonna be like, okay, I feel like person has sciatic pain, and then I get a reply, you can't diagnose. So why the hell was it even written there? Why is the A even there? So we're not taught. We don't know any of this stuff. When we don't know this stuff, then we get a fail, and then we just like, oh god, like it really demotivates a person. It's I honestly don't want to keep going ahead at this point. I'm like, no. I was talking to another student that we know each other. I was like, I don't feel like moving ahead in this, because all of a sudden I get a blanket reply that everything was failed. And then my first case study, which I was probably the worst, I just randomly wrote some stuff that was a pass. I'm like, the other one was way more experienced than this one. How was that a pass? How was these failed? If anything, I would have failed the first one, passed the other ones. So that's been really like, I'm pulling my hair. Like, I received that email 3 days ago, and since then I've just been pulling my hair, because I have to go to do myofascial release therapy, a course in Colorado. And the only thing that was holding me back was this. I have all 20 case studies done, but I'm like, how in the world am I going to go back to my first client or second client and be like, yeah, I need to do another session on you, or I have to ask you some more questions, etc. Like, it's really like, it's pulling my hair at this point.
Can I jump in there as well?
Yeah.
I feel the same as Uthman on that. Like, the first Healing Accelerator, we weren't actually shown how to do a case study. So like, we just downloaded the forms and went ahead and did what we thought was right. And the same as that, I handed in all my case studies. I had lots of hiccups trying to get the file to upload. And Romy, you gave me a hand with that there a couple of weeks ago, identifying the problem. But I still haven't been able to view any of the feedback on my case studies. So I know I passed one, failed the rest, and I think I had ended in like 10 or 12. So, you know, it's important to get the feedback and to know what I failed. And I've emailed lots of times about it and I've never got a response. So as Utman said there, it does really demotivate you.
Well, that's the one area, and then what we're learning in our healing accelerator, we're applying 100%. We're really good students. I mean, that's the only reason why we're so far ahead in our own academics. But then we get feedback from our case studies from someone else who hasn't attended that workshop. It's like, you're not allowed to do this move or that move, or you can't do 3 moves or what. We never learned that. As for us practicing it, we're like, okay, do the adductor move all the time. Okay, cool, I'll do the adductor. Like, it's not even part of the 3, but it's okay, I'll do the adductor move. It's like, why do you do the adductor move? Oh my God, we were told to do that. Or, so then, like, it was like, okay, why?
Can I also add there as well? So on, you know, the little pre-videos you give us when we sign up to the Healing Accelerator shop, and it tells you to go through the first 4 modules, I think it is. And then there was some videos by Wanda, and it says in the next part you will learn how to palpate. So I think there's missing videos, and I emailed before about it, and then I was given a reply that you learn to palpate in the Healing Accelerator class. So when I took the second Healing Accelerator class, I was told that I could do with getting a course on palpation. So where do you actually learn it? Like, is it part of the course or is it not?
So I'm gonna check if there are the videos. Teresa, do you know anything about the palpation videos?
Palpation videos were all taken away and supposed to be being learnt in the healing accelerators, because we got too many feedback that you can't learn palpation from a video. So we took them all away, and they're supposed to be being taught in the healing accelerators, but of course Dr.
that hasn't been
Manon
passed.
does not teach all of
That
them.
hasn't been passed on to the instructors though, because the Healing Accelerator class I was at, you know, she didn't know that she had to teach us palpation. She thought you come in knowing palpation. So like, you know, this loss of communication and the students suffering, it is, you know, it's not right, like.
And is it okay if I say something?
Yeah.
Because I know in functional muscle, did you do that functional muscle anatomy course?
I'm working my way through.
Okay, because
yeah,
I know that course, like I finished that entire course before my first healing accelerator. Mm-hmm. And that was really when I first got experience on palpation. Like, I didn't come from a medical background. I have a degree in engineering, so totally different than Bowen therapy. But with that first, and it does come with, so Bowen College doesn't have set palpation videos up anymore, but there are palpation videos that come with that textbook that comes with that course.
Yeah, see, I bought the textbook secondhand, so I haven't got the videos that came with it.
You should still be able to access the videos in the first page of the textbook. I'm just visualizing it now. It's inside. But there's a website you can go to. I got it second. Yeah, I got it secondhand as well, and I still was able. There we go. She's got it. Yay!
Can you maybe give me that website and I can put it in the e-course?
Yeah, I can send it to you, Teresa.
Okay, cool. And then I'll put it in the e-course where people can find it. Very cool.
Yeah, because I remember that. Like, I didn't have experience touching anybody's body, and that's. I got my family and I was like, here, lay down. I'm going to try and find a muscle on you before I went to that first healing accelerator to be able to. So just an experience of mine.
Yeah. But like I was told, you don't need any experience. You don't need any anatomy, physiology. You can go ahead and attend your first one straight away. Like, so.
Yeah, you need to do the first 4 modules before you attend your first one. That's all the point you need. But the rest of those will help you forward through with in terms of palpation and finding muscles and getting comfortable. Because really with palpation, it's all about practicing as much as you can. Correct me if I'm wrong, Romy, but my adventure through learning the human body, just touching different people, right? It's so hard technique to teach to somebody, because I could go on and be like, oh, I feel the muscle right there, and go to show somebody else, and they're like, I don't feel what you're feeling, until they've like practiced more and more of touching other people's, touching on themselves. Like I loved it. I would read my Trail Guide to the Body, and I'd be like sitting here, and I still do to this day. So
Yeah.
And it's just like how I was phrasing it to Carolee, not just in regards to like the palpation anatomy, but to see where you're coming from, because people will see the same body differently. It's a matter of getting the experience and seeing different bodies and feeling different bodies too. So the idea here is even understanding the basics. That's why it says in the email that it's recommended that you take the first 4 modules of the anatomy course, just so that you understand what kind of muscles we're going to be working on first. And then you get to see those muscles. And it almost becomes like an X-ray kind of thing the more you see it. I don't know if this is what you're going through right now, Lauren, but the more you see a body, you're like, oh, I see that muscle just lying right there. I'm going to work on it.
That way for me as well. I'm just like, oh yeah, it's right there.
So, Teresa, would you be able to shed any light on how I can access the feedback that's supposedly given to me on those case studies?
Sure, they should be within the case studies, but I can go get them. We've now changed over. We're going to give people a Google Doc of the results, so that they're all going to be on one page. So I can go back into yours and put them all onto a Google Doc for you, so that they're all there.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
They're all within each case study that was submitted when I had to put them up for you, because I know you were having trouble. So I put them all up for you.
See, mine aren't up there, Teresa, though.
They're all there. I was with Romy the other day, and we were looking at them, because after his meeting with you, we went in and had a look.
Okay.
So I know they're all there. I can go find the comments and send them to you in a Google Doc.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you.
No worries.
We have yet to plan a time so that I could go over.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you don't receive an email back from me, please email me again. I am getting about 500 emails a day, and if I miss you, please just email me again, because honestly, I am human and I can't sometimes keep up. So just send me a quick reminder and say, hey, did you forget about me? Hello, remember me? So please just email me again. I am so swamped. I'm up till like 3-4 o'clock in the morning some days working, and then I just suddenly forget. I apologize, but just email me again. I'm okay with that. I really am.
Do you master the emails for the other college in Europe as well?
Sometime. Depends on which ones. But I do the UK one and the Slovenia one and this one. And this isn't my full-time job. I actually work for 6 other companies. So please just re-email me. Please, just re-email me and say, hey, remember me? Did you find out? And I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, you'll get it right away.
And if anybody needs to as well, I can post it in the chat here, but you can reach out to me at lauren.boconfuso@bowencollege.com if for some reason you emailed info or support and didn't reach anybody, and I can make sure that you guys get heard as well. So I'll share that in the box, and I can post it on the Facebook group as well, but you can email me directly. So Lauren, here I'll write it in the chat because my name's spelled weird long.
Okay. Thank you.
I will offer the same thing too. If you email me in regards to something regarding admin, I'll just pester Teresa afterwards.
Okay.
There we go.
Lauren, so are you certified then through the college?
I am not done my certification, no. The goal was to be done Toronto in May, but obviously with COVID and everything going on, I started with the college in 2017. So my anatomy, physiology, and functional muscle, I had to get like a proctor and write it by hand. And then I was really excited when meridians and nutrition I could just do on the computer. But yeah, I was back then and had to go through the transition into the e-courses and whatnot. So it's been a fun journey, that's for sure. But definitely take some patience. But again, Uthman's questions about case studies hasn't got looked at yet. So I just want to make sure we cover that in terms of helping him out with finishing those case studies as best as we can.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer Uthman's questions in regards to the case studies. They were just trying to recall a couple things, and I was actually hoping that I could use this call. And before I do that, Uthman, you can also reach out to me individually. I recommend that you do, and we can also go over your case studies, all your case studies, and I could share with you my findings on it.
Okay.
But I think what was going on with your case studies and also with, it's a very common thing. I understand that a lot of you don't have the medical background, and that's perfectly fine. But what I was trying to get at is something that I kind of want to do with as an exercise right now. Is everyone open to doing an exercise with me for the next 10-15 minutes?
Yep.
So what I'm going to do, this part of my plan is I'm going to make more resources for what the SOAP chart is. So I'm actually in the process of making a video to kind of guide you with what to expect for the SOAP chart. And that will be posted shortly with help from Teresa. I understand that you were just, put in the spot and told to do case studies without really having to go through what to expect in a case study, what to write in a case study. And specifically, you would think that they're all forms. Most of them are forms. The biggest chunk that requires an art has to be the SOAP chart, right? And so going through a lot of the case studies, there is a most common kind of challenge for a lot of us, including medical professionals like myself, has to do with the SOAP chart. And so what I want to do today for the last while, and we can go over as much as we can, and I'm glad that you're all here for this, is I want to do some example cases with me as kind of like the patient. And then I want everyone to contribute maybe 1 or 2 questions each, asking me, oh, what's going on, that sort of thing. And then as we go through that, I will also share my screen, which I'm going to do right now. Whoops. Or actually, Teresa, can I ask one request from you? I didn't actually share this with Teresa, so this is kind of me going off on a whim. Teresa, you there?
Yep, I am. Just we're looking for the mute button.
Okay. Could you open up a Word document that says, and then type in subjective, objective, assessment, and plan, and share that screen with all of us. So what I'm going to ask Teresa to do is she's going to be the charter, and she's going to write down what kind of answers that I give based on what everyone asks me in regards to what I'm coming in for. I'm going to be that client of yours. And as we kind of work this out together, I want you to get a sense as to how we're actually approaching this and how we're charting this too. And this is perfect. Teresa doesn't have that medical background, so she's going to just write off what she knows, and there's never going to be a right or wrong answer, but then we'll discuss it at the end afterwards and see what was actually kind of sufficient and what are some gaps and such. Does that sound like a good plan for all of us?
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so once we get that Word document started.
While she's getting that set up, may I ask one question regarding the case studies?
Definitely.
So kind of a funny thing that happened. Okay, so like I said, I started back in 2018. And so when I started, I didn't have a scanner and I didn't really have the technical tools to be able to upload my case studies. So I just recently, over the last couple months, have been uploading mine from 2018. So yes, I know that some of them from back then are maybe messy and not the greatest, laid out as they could be, because, I've learned a lot in the last 2 years, right? And, looking back at them, I'm like, yeah, there's definitely things I would have done better, but still, that's where I was then, so I'm still going to submit them because that's where I was. Now, just as of the last month, I think, maybe, just in the last month is when those new case study forms were put like as the official case study forms now. But when I got my marks back for the last like 5 or 6, however many it was, that I uploaded, they were all marked wrong because, like, yes, there were some other issues on there, but the chief thing is because they were they weren't in the new forms. But those are from 2018 when those new forms weren't even in existence or even thought of at that time. So I don't know. I really want to request a remark on them based off of that fact because, again, they're from 2018. I've learned a lot since then. My new case study that I'll be uploading will really show that I've learned a lot since then, and they're a lot neater. But yeah, the big thing is that it seemed like the big fail was based off of that they were not in the new forms.
Well, none of mine are from all of mine, I did them before the new forms came out, all 20.
In regards to the old and new forms, I think I've actually taken a look at one of your case studies, Carolee. It had to, number 16, I think it was. I don't know if you got your feedback and such from that.
Okay.
But I think what I requested was that it's a conditional where I asked you to rewrite the slope chart.
Okay.
I don't know if you
I'll have to read back into that one. You said 16. Okay.
because what I think what I was looking at, and I looked at just one of your case studies, Carolee, but I'll be more than happy to look at your other case studies too, is that I had to go back and forth between, like, you had one page with like you had one page writing down, oh, this is what we went through on this day, and then you had that on your slope chart that you had done other things as well, so I had to go back and forth. And so ideally, and I'm just trying to get you to practice in a professional setting, nothing
for
wrong,
sure.
but just to have them all compiled so that I can see it all right there. But I took a look and took into consideration the context of what you're writing. And so I didn't actually fail you. I just wrote down that it's a conditional, that you just write this all down in one piece or one paper, whether that be a Word document or handwritten, and then scan it.
Okay. I'm trying to think which page you're referring to on there.
I think I saw quite a few to do with dates and how it's like, oh, this client of mine experienced this and wasn't feeling as much pain and all that, and they were all dated.
Oh, it was the continuation of the client response.
Exactly. So what I'm just asking you to do is, I see some parts of it, and this is where I'm going to do this exercise right now, is that when you updated me with some of those things, some of them can actually go on subjective and some actually on objective. So it's a matter of understanding what to put for each one so that you organize it in a way. So does that make sense to you?
We'll see, because where you're talking about subjective and objective, the heading of that section is merely just for the client response and the therapist respond after treatment or before, depending what's going on there. So it's merely just extra notes that aren't under a subjective or objective heading. They're just the comments and thoughts, I guess, and extra observations, kind of.
Exactly. So I know with the intake forms and the soap chart, there's not even much space to write that all down.
No.
In that case, I also one suggestion is to write it on a separate piece of paper, and then kind of indicate in the soap chart in the Bowen College intake forms, see attached below or something along those lines. Because the idea here is, I mean, the forms are reproducible. Those are some of the things that you would want your clients to be able to answer and fill out for you. But when it comes to the SOAP part, that's where you're doing the writing, right? And so where I was getting at was making sure that you understand what to write here, and that you be able to fully chart and even see where everything else is coming from just through the soap chart notes itself. I can't speak this morning. So what I'm hoping to do, and let's do this for 10 minutes. We're at the end here. And if anyone else has any questions afterwards, I know this is meant to be a Q&A, but I really wanted to get this kind of shown so that we have a basic understanding of how to approach this and what kind of expectations there are with the SOAP chart. So we see Teresa's screen here. We have subjective, objective, and then the A and P stands for assessment and plan. And what we're trying to do here is whatever your patient or your client, I'm so used to saying patient, but whenever I refer to patient, I do mean client, patient-client, is whatever they say, that all goes under subjective. And then whatever you see or whatever you find without kind of not asking the client, but this is your own observation. That's under objective, whatever you see, your observation. And then when it comes to assessment, yes, there are notes that say that Bowen therapists are not allowed to diagnose. But assessment isn't just a list of diagnoses in medicine. When I do A in my charting, I could write things like, I'm suspecting this, but I have to write down my clinical impressions. So if I didn't have time to go through it, I would be like, I'm suspecting this, but I don't have access to the x-rays or something. And this is where I might want to refer to, a medical doctor or imaging, that sort of thing. Or, you're suspecting that because this is what I'm observing, that this is my rationale behind it. So it's almost like as if objective, it's almost like as if assessment is coming from your objective. So it's not necessarily just a list of diagnoses. And then plan is what you do in that visit.
For the assessment then, I guess normally what I've been doing in there is saying like I have one client that has possible kyphosis, or no, scoliosis.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he was like slightly diagnosed by a chiropractor. He's like, yeah, the chiropractor was just like, I think you have this, but not really sure, kind of thing. But
Oops. Oh, looks like she got cut off. Well, I'll just continue from there. But as Carolee was kind of trying to mention, and I'll let her know when she comes back, is if you have a diagnosis coming from your medical doctor, say that, oh, my doctor has told me that I do have scoliosis. You can still write that down under assessment and chart that saying scoliosis diagnosed by medical doctor. So knowing that, I'm hoping to go through a couple of examples and having you explore what we need to do with the charting. So I'm going to act out as a patient, and I want you to either take turns or just yell out questions that you want to know if you were to see me first off as one of your clients. So say I'm coming in with shoulder pain. My shoulders hurt. I'll leave it up to you now.
Which shoulder?
Which shoulder exactly? Oh, it's my right shoulder.
Point to where on the shoulder?
You know, kind of like around here.
Can you describe the pain?
Question.
It's kind of like a good question. It's kind of like a burning, achy pain.
How long has it been going on for?
Oh, I would have to say, you know, when I did this, when I had my exercise just last week.
Does it hurt more when you do things or not? Or just resting?
Kind of hurts when, you know, like I can't really go forward here or back.
Have you
So-
done anything to help it?
So I just want to interrupt. Carolee, we're just going through a case.
I'm back.
You're back? Back?
Sorry, my computer died.
I think I might have already answered your question, but it's if, say, for instance, it was scoliosis and that it was kind of diagnosed, then you write down in the assessment, scoliosis diagnosed by that. So we're just quickly going through a case, and what I want to get out of this case is having you guys to ask me questions about it and get a feel and sense as to what we can actually be writing in our charts here. All right, so I have shoulder pain. We got a few questions. So I think the last one was, when does it hurt? Well, or does it hurt when, it hurts when I'm moving it for sure. You know, when I can't seem to kind of do it like this.
What have you done to help it? Meds, creams?
I've had, it's better with like a heat pack. I've been putting a heat pack on.
Can I just butt in there and ask something unrelated, Romy? You know, range of motion as well and range of movement. So obviously we don't know anything about them because we're, you know, we don't really know what way they should be and shouldn't be.
Mhm.
Can we try and cover something on that as well so you'd have an idea of what it should be at?
I actually have a video in the making of
Yeah.
how we have the shoulder assessment. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna get that done.
Thanks. Will be helpful.
Shoulder range of motion video, and also like the tests that we do with the shoulder, right?
Yeah.
Good question.
Good question. But did you observe anything as I was kind of showing you guys like how it hurts?
No.
I guess it's hard, but I was kind of pointing out. I was going like, it kind of hurts like this. What do you see here? Not much.
No,
Uh,
can't really see you.
Can't really see. I'm short that way. But I was kind of like, it kind of goes like this from here.
So it's
Well,
probably
we know-
restricted.
We can know it's in the deltoid.
Probably, and it's probably restricted, but this is where you can also ask me. And because you brought up range of motion, it's not out
Yeah.
of the blue either, Linda. You can always ask me, could you move your arm as high as you can or something along those lines? And that could be something too. So if you ask that, then I would say kind of around there. But
now,
this
would
is
that be under objective? Because that's what we're seeing, not what they're saying.
exactly. So this would be under objective. What would you be seeing here is when we do shoulder range of motion, we actually go from the bottom right here and all the way to the top. That's your 180 right here. So this part right here would be 90 degrees, right? If this was a right angle down here, and then another 90 right here. So
So
in this,
we can't really see there, Romy. Now we can only see half of you, so I can't see
I'm gonna
where
go
you're
back.
going to be like, yeah,
The full range of motion goes from the bottom right here, where my arm goes down, all the
Yeah.
way to the top right here.
yeah,
So
okay.
what I'm making right here is the 180 angle. So when you do your objective for shoulder,
Yeah,
you want to be writing down the angle that my arm is going up here, starting from the bottom. So
Okay.
if this was 90 right here, where would this be?
90-ish.
90-ish, 95, 100. It's a guesstimate. But it gives you an idea as to how far my arm goes up.
okay.
So where you would say it's like about 90 to 100 degrees, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And then other things you can also write down in your objective is, you know, when I'm actually doing this move right here, or this range of motion right here, you can also look at my face. And sometimes, and I was trying to kind of emphasize that too, is I can have this kind of grimacing face, like that sort of thing. And that could also be charted down under O too, because that's what you're seeing.
And the fact that you held the shoulder when you did it, should we say that?
Exactly. That works too. Client held the shoulder, yes. Now I'm not going to test you on your shoulder tests. I'll do that in the follow-up video when I record this. And I know there's time, we're running out on time, but I really want to get on with assessment and plan. So based on what you know right now, what do you think is going on in my shoulder? You don't have to give me a diagnosis. Just tell me what you think is going on.
You're restricted somewhere in those muscles around it.
Yeah, definitely. Then you can write that down.
Okay.
See, as a sports therapist, what I would do is I would do some more assessments. I would do like a internal rotation, external rotation, empty the pop can assessment, all that stuff, just to determine if it's an impingement or like a, what do you call it, a rotator cuff is torn or something.
Definitely.
I would do all that. I put that on my objective. But then at that point, if something comes up positive, I'll be like, shoulder impingement.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm thinking it's a shoulder impingement or something along those lines.
Yeah, definitely. And if you learn many more of the orthopedic testing and the more experience you get, the more you start to see things too.
Yeah.
Definitely. Sorry. Give me one moment here. My body's not really in tune with the morning. Yeah, when you have more things that you can see that you could test for, definitely put that under objective. And then based on what you see with your objective, you can really write down, or at least write down what you're expecting, what you're thinking about, and even like connecting the dots. That's pretty much what that's what you do under assessment.
Okay, so assessment, like the second case study or third case study, do it be like same as first case study? So we're writing like the SOAP for the, I mean, not second or third, sorry, for second or third visit. For assessment, you have to rewrite every single thing again because they're coming for the same thing.
Potentially, yes. At the same time, you also want to write down things like, are you seeing improvement? If you're not seeing improvement, maybe you can also write down what you may be suspecting why you're not seeing improvement under your 8.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just ask that empty pop can assessment there in the objective?
Mm-hmm. So the for Carolee, if you don't know what that means, it's just a matter of testing my shoulders by kind of putting resistance with my
Okay.
with giving my thumbs up as well as my thumbs down. That's
Okay.
the MT and
Okay.
but the more you kind of get into this, the more you start figuring out ways to test stuff too. And there are many orthopedic tests and resources for orthopedic tests on YouTube. If you search on YouTube shoulder orthopedic tests, you're going to get a lot from there. But it's not really a requirement. And it'll be something to look at and something to know too.
Okay.
But based on this now, what would you want to do in your plan? Let's just quickly finish this off and then
Aim 1, 2, 3.
aim 1, 2, 3 for the first visit. If this is the first visit, you always want to be doing aim 1, 2, and 3.
Only, right?
Deltoid is small enough to do in the first one, so just do deltoid.
Can you do deltoid on the first one? I thought you could only do aim 1, 2, 3.
Ideally, just aim 1, 2, and 3, because here's the thing. What if the deltoid actually, or the shoulder deltoid actually feels better after just aim 1, 2, and 3? You're fulfilling the fact that it's less is more.
Yeah. My thought is usually if so say they sit up on the side of the bed, they're like, oh, it's still like and then Manon usually said to, oh yes, of course, like, you know, assess that, touch that so that they feel. Otherwise, if they leave and you're like, and the client is like, oh, they didn't even touch my shoulder, I'm never going back. That's kind of how I understood Manon's point of view on that.
Yeah. Nope, that's definitely true. And if you feel that that's something that you have to add in, then what you have to say, and this is what I'm trying to get at with a lot of your case studies, is write down your rationale.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
Thank you, Teresa, for writing that there. Deltoid on second visit. So we can write that as future plan.
Okay.
We have future plan deltoid on second visit.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would want to consider?
What might be causing it?
Sorry?
What might be causing it?
What might be
Are they
causing
doing some repetitive movements that's affecting it, or what?
And so in the case where, say, we get to this point here, Linda, and you're like, oh, I should have asked what might have caused it, right?
Yeah.
You can also write it here in the plan, like
Yeah.
questions to ask for next visit.
Okay.
What might have caused it? Really good point, Linda. And I really like how you actually added that at this time. Anything that you've missed on this first visit, write that down on your future plan saying, in my next visit, I want to ask the following question.
Okay.
And if, say, for instance, you're suspecting other things. With the shoulder, we have all those accessory shoulder moves, right? Could it be that it's the pectoral, or the chest? Could it be the lat? Or could it be the rhomboid? So maybe even in a future plan, you can also write down, you know, I'm considering the pectoralis move, for example, because my client was actually pointing towards the front of the shoulder.
I was gonna mention that too because you're kind of doing like this over exaggerated, so like that's usually a pec pull.
So yeah, definitely write that down saying, you know, I want to do the pec move because my client was actually like this. And it looks like the shoulder was rounded forward, or that he was holding just the front of the shoulder. These are all good reasons. Thanks for pointing that out, Carolee, that it looked like my shoulder was kind of coming in. That's also something.
When assessing, are we assessing as they're lying down, or do we assess when they sit, as they're sitting up filling in their questionnaire, or at what point? Are we doing it all the time?
So when you learn the Bowen with the shoulder assessment, you learn it when you're standing up.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. Ideally standing up. But say, for instance, you're assessing and your patient or your client is having difficulty standing up. Then you chart down saying, we're doing these assessments with the client sitting down because of insert reason here. So I know we're quite over time. I wanted to take 2 minutes just to quickly go over this. But first off, good job on going through this entire case right here. And looking at the chart, Teresa, could you scroll back up to subjective when you're done? So you see how much you charted here in your SOAP. Is this what you're charting? Does this look similar to what you're charting in your SOAP chart? Kind of ask that to yourself. And now that we have this kind of exercise, and I was hoping to do a few more, but we could do that in the future too, if you want more practice and all that. But even ask yourself, we went through quite a few questions, especially with subjective. And I think one of the most common things that I've encountered with the case studies is patient comes in with shoulder pain. And that was the only thing I saw under subjective. Nothing to do with where is the pain, which shoulder. Like just telling me shoulder pain isn't really telling me. Good to know if it's, one shoulder or both shoulders.
So if they've got, sorry, Romy. So if they've got all these other ailments as well, then does that go under the subjective or will it go under a medical history?
Ideally, so people write under medical history, right? You're given a space in your intake form, just like how in my medical forms, I give them a space to go through medical history. But what this part does, you go through it a little deeper. Because someone could tell you, I have diabetes, right? For example, of course, we're not medically trained to treat diabetes. So I'm giving this as an example right now with the intent that it's not treated like this. But when someone tells you they have diabetes, what more do you want from it? Are you content with just hearing your client saying, I have diabetes? Or would you like to know, for how long they've had diabetes? Are you being medicated? How high can your blood sugar be? So that tells us the extent of how uncontrolled those diabetes, the blood sugar is. So it's kind of like they give us an opportunity in the medical history to share with you what they have. And the SOAP is our opportunity to get a better story out of it. Does that make sense?
I guess, yeah.
So one question we didn't actually ask and this is kind of like one of those questions that I like to ask, is going back to the shoulder pain. On a scale of 1 to 10, how intense is your shoulder pain?
Well, it's usually on the form already that they fill out with the X's and stuff with their numbers.
Yeah. And I like to say it's good to go back because sometimes what they write on the chart or what they write on the form may be different from what they say to you. It's potential.
Repeat that then, that question again after you've done your moves on them. See if it has improved anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's on the new forms as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's also good that because that intake form only does the first and last session, it's always good to go ask them every session, what's your pain at right now? Give me an idea. Because our pain isn't quite linear, our first session could be 5 out of 10, and then our second session could be 7 out of 10. But then once we get to our last session being, 1 or 2 out of 10, whereas if you started from 5 and go down to 2, well, that's just a linear thing, when in fact our pain
Yeah.
can fluctuate. But this will
Yeah.
give you an idea as to.
So I have.
Yep.
So I have one last question. That you know how you mentioned new forms, and we've already started and submitted our case studies and failed them and whatnot. So now we get those case studies and we have to amend them. Do we stick to the original documents we put them in, because we obviously can't get our clients back to go and get them to write their piece all over again? So what do we do? Do we print off the new forms and add it in as well, or what do we do?
Teresa, what was the verdict?
I don't, well, the client forms.
The client forms cannot be changed because you won't be seeing the client again. I think if this was me, okay, I'm just going to say hypothetically, if this was me marking this, then I would like you to just rewrite the SOAP chart. If we got
Okay.
that, or yeah, if you got information, or at least how I would approach it if I was the evaluator for this, is you can't just get your client to come back again. I understand that. And so in order to facilitate the learning, I want you to go back to the SOAP chart and kind of write down, what would I be looking for now that I have, this kind of information, or what would actually improve the case? What would be questions to ask that would improve the case? So say, for instance, you had a case of and all you had down was, client came in with shoulder pain, wants to try out Bowen. Well, what I would like you to improve it is writing down the questions. Where is the shoulder pain on a scale of 1 to 10? That way it gets me to see where you're trying to improve at. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Can this page be uploaded or something, or given to us somehow?
Yep, I'm going to add it to the case studies course. That's why I'm making it pretty here.
And I'm also going to be making a video soon and uploading that so that I describe what we're specifically looking for in each of the subject.
Because just building off of her, and I need to step out in about 10 minutes anyways, but like, I'm talking about like 15 case studies, 15 out of 15 fail. I'm just like, well, I like the motivation is not there. I don't even know what to do. I'm like, I'm going to rewrite the whole thing. I don't even know what to do at this point. Like I'm actually, like I was telling Linda also, I'm like, I don't have any motivation to continue. I mean, 15 out of, if I was getting feedback per case study, we'll finish one, then I can apply that to the second one, I apply that to the third one, apply that to the fourth, but there's no feedback. So I'm just doing the best that I can. I'm Googling, okay, how do a physiotherapist write a SOAP? I'm like, I have physiotherapists, I'm like, is this okay? One of them said, yeah, this is perfect, it's really good. And I was like, but I failed it. I was like, so like, what is it that we need to do at this point? Because like, I've submitted so many.
Were there notes added on the end of the case study by any chance, Usman?
I received all the notes in one email.
And could we find a time to talk?
Huh?
Let's find a time to talk.
Okay.
Send me an email. We'll schedule a talk. I'll be more than happy to go over it.
Okay.
Can I comment on that? Can I comment on this?
Definitely.
I also failed one of my courses, and it was such an unpleasant experience. But the fact that I went through that experience, it made me to bring different attention to my work, and it awakened me to be more engaged. So it was something positive that came out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I had to do some more work, which means spend more time with it, which means go deeper to it. Sometimes it's useful. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Ramin. And definitely, I have my own fair share of failures too, and it's not really so much a failure. It's just an attempt to look at it from a different.
I feel like I'm being attacked for saying that I failed. like I've gone through grad school and have 2 doctorate degrees. I failed so much. I learned from failing. That's the only way I moved this far. If I failed, that's how I got this far. I mean, if I didn't really care, I wouldn't be sitting for an hour and a half in this Zoom session, right?
Mhm.
I just meant to share my experience as so how I was relating to you and
Mhm. I think Uthman and me, anyways, I think we just failed that we weren't given the guidance in the first place before we set out to do all those case studies, because it took us a lot of time. We had to juggle childcare, we had to juggle appointments, you know, lots of different things. So it was time consuming, and we just feel after failing all of those, you know, there should have been a bit of guidance in place for us to begin with, rather than failing everything.
But the thing is also one thing, I think the nature of work is just because a lot of it is self-study and self-practice. It come back to how we discipline ourselves in that relation. I understand there is so many complexities in life in the sense of time and responsibility. But I think this type of nature of this type of education, which is one more self-studies and workshop and online meeting, and things are not so perfect, and we're going to come to experience all these things. And thank you for you guys. I can relate to some of these issues that you guys brought up. I've been also to similarity of it, and I'm just saying that it's so many, you know, so valid, and I think there's so much reason for improvement with all this discussion. And like anything in life, it's just we try to improve things in ourselves, in our where we work. And but I mean no attack on anything. I had so much respect for your experience and your concerns. Thank you.
And I thank all of you, because it gives me an opportunity to see where it's coming through your eyes, because unfortunately I don't get to see everything. And by doing so, I'm more than willing to at least make sure that we get the foundation straight. Hence why I hope that this call here was very informative for you. We're going to have this posted as well. And then I'm going to also make those kind of references and resources, so that for anyone who's just starting off without really understanding what the SOAP chart is, that they get something to start off with.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Sounds good. And
So,
just wanted to throw it out there that like we stayed on the call for the whole time, hour and a half, and you know we're really busy, so like we want to do this and we're really dedicated to do this.
and I want to help you and support you in any way that I can, based on what I have and the time that I have myself too. So I do respect your time, and I really, really thank you for staying on the call. Before we conclude, how did you feel about the information that we gone through in the past hour and a half?
It was excellent. I just want to get the somehow, if maybe Teresa, if you can email at least us the forms. I want to look at it today and just start going one by one on them.
Okay, I can email it out. No problem.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm delighted we got through all this as well. Yeah.
I think I see my issues. I am actually doing all those things on that list. I'm just not necessarily writing it down, because I thought it was kind of a, I don't know. For me, it's kind of a given, and it's like, okay, yeah, these are the things I go through. And I think I just need to actually write it down, because I'm like, oh yeah, you guys can just assume and know what I'm doing. But I'm like, okay, I guess realistically, I'm a couple hours away. You don't exactly know what I'm doing, because it's like I ask questions about the people, and like, I don't know, I feel like, I don't know, when I see someone's injury, I'd like see like you, like instantly when you did that, I was like, oh yeah, Peck. like I don't know, like I feel like I've been doing it long enough that I'm starting to be able to pick up on those things. So I feel like I'm writing less info, because I'm like, oh, I just know, like, or like I'm not, I don't know, I feel like I'm catching on, So I feel like I'm not writing enough info for you guys on your guys' end where you're marking. So
Well,
yeah, I'll have
not
to write
just-
more info.
And it's good that you bring that up, Carolee, because it's not just about our end, but there's two things I want to mention what you just said there, Carolee. One is in legalities, legal system, that if you don't write it down, it did not happen. So if anything were to happen to you in the unfortunate event, and they see that there was nothing written down there, and you say, but they said this, unfortunately, they're going to say it didn't happen. And I really, really resonate with what you just said, where, you know, you just saw me like this and you know you had to do shoulder. That's the healer in you. And I know that you really innately want to help people. But the point of kind of writing all this down for many reasons. One is, of course, to make sure that you protect yourself. That's one thing. But then another thing is to really share with other people, like what your findings are. Because case studies can also be used if you ever consider it in the future or are doing it right now for research purposes, really further the understanding of Bowen therapy. Maybe something as basic as doing a shoulder move, but by practicing, if you get a case that not many of us see, whether that be frozen shoulder or something, and you have a really clear picture of what this client came in, what you did, and how you helped this client, well, you're contributing to knowledge that we have in our community. It's also for your learning too, because you're not going to memorize everything. You're going to be like, oh, I have this client coming in next week, and you know, there's some things that I don't know what I could be doing. This is refer back to this document.
Yeah, for sure. Which in like the treatment charts will show that kind of stuff too. So
Exactly.
I'm just so anxious. I'm like so tired of schooling. Like I've been doing this full time for the last like year and a half, so I'm just done. I'm just done.
I clearly resonate with you, Carolee, having done
Yeah,
a
like
bachelor's, finishing my master's, and I'm about to approach a PhD. And
yeah,
I'm telling myself, what am I doing at times?
yeah.
But the fact that you're being so resilient and persistent in this really shows.
Yeah. So I get my certificate.
So I know a lot of us have other calls and such, but
Yeah, I have to go. I'm jumping on another call right now.
Yeah, I gotta go too. I have to drop my kid off somewhere.
Okay, people, I will email you this after my next call.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
a million. I
you.
appreciate it today.
any other
Yeah, I know. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Romy.
You're welcome. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye. And bye for now.
Bye for now.